Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first hug of 2020 for New York City. My name is John Sasala. I'm with Mori Creative Studios. We're the new hug leader of the New York City chapter, and we're stepping in for SmartAcre, who's done a great job over the last couple of years growing the engagement of the New York City hug events to what it is today. We actually have about 1,000 registered members, so it's a really strong, great, growing community. They've done a great job. I want to thank specifically David Snyder for recommending that we step in. I want to thank Amanda Kern and the entire team over at SmartAcre for the volume of work that they did to get this network, this community up to the size that it is. So thank you very much, guys. We only hope to keep that momentum going. What we're doing here is a bit unconventional for this first quarter event. We were originally supposed to get together in person at Rollworks headquarters to do a complete presentation all around ABM. Unfortunately, due to some health concerns, we decided to turn this into a virtual event and not get everybody together in the same room in person, which at first was a very difficult decision. It was a hard decision to make, but we realized something. First, as we opened up registration, our registration filled up in a matter of days. And even after registration was full, we still saw about 200 people expressed interest in being on the waiting list. So there's a high demand for this ABM content. When we decided that it was in our best interest to make this a virtual event, we realized, well, this is great. We can actually now open up these sessions to everybody out there who wanted maybe access to it. Or even if you just simply had a conflict and weren't going to be able to make it, you can see these now recorded in the future. Or even if you're not in the New York City market and you wanted to access this content, it's now available. So the way that we're going to be handling this is this session here is the product updates, where I'll just be talking about the new tools that are available in HubSpot and coming down the pipeline. This is going to be shared on our LinkedIn group, pre-recorded, before the session tonight, before the actual live Q&A where Ethan Kopit and Kyle Jepson will do their ABM demonstration. They will have a full workshop and a workbook that you can get there. There's going to be live Q&A. So that's the real event. That's coming later tonight. Make sure that you register for that. You can do so at moricreative.com/hug. And that starts tonight, March 4th at 6 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll hope to see you guys there. After that is released, after that's wrapped up, we're also going to then be publishing Sam Kelly from Rollworks, his presentation on Rollworks and how that ABM software actually works to help propel and fast tracks these ABM efforts. So really great stuff. We're rolling with the punches. We're trying to make sure that we can still deliver you the same caliber of content that we would have been able to in person. So we appreciate you bearing with us, and hopefully this all works out and still is well received. So. All right, without further ado, I'm going to jump into our product updates. As I share my screen here, I do want to point out that the majority of the product updates are focused around a lot of the marketing enterprise tools. And HubSpot towards the end of last year and coming into this year, really has started doubling down on their enterprise marketing software, just like they've done with enterprise sales. And they're really trying to help people think of HubSpot more than just a very easy to use platform, but also extremely powerful. And that's something that is pretty uncommon. This chart here kind of represents that, for small to medium-sized businesses, the minimum cost of entry is that it's easy to use. And HubSpot's always been that. They've been serving a small to medium-sized business community. And as a result, people know it's a great user interface. It's a great product. It's a great tool to use and very easily adopted. On the other hand, though, if it's easy to use, people kind of assume that it's not as powerful as maybe some of the other enterprise platforms. That's not really the case. HubSpot has long operated in the enterprise space. It's just now with these new tools, we can really start speaking of how incredibly appropriate HubSpot is for those much larger enterprise companies. So we've actually got a slide here that shows the enterprise has been adopted by government organizations, by publicly traded companies, by these really large companies that have found great success. It's just some of the new functionality that we're about to review as we go through here demonstrates that they're really doubling down and they really, are setting their sights on servicing this larger market, in addition to, everybody else that's been successfully using HubSpot for the last couple of years. As we dive into the actual functionality, we're going to start here with multi-touch revenue attribution. This is something new that HubSpot's rolled out that I think a lot of marketers are going to get very excited about. There's a funny little adage that Nicholas Holland, the GM of Marketing Hub, uses where he says, marketing teams often say, I know 50% of my efforts are working, I just don't know which 50%. There's not a lot of clarity on what exact steps and articles and emails and things that we're doing are actually attributing to revenue growth. Well, that's kind of changing here with this multi-touch revenue attribution, where we used to only be able to look at what was the original source of a contact that maybe came in and tie that to the revenue associated with a deal and say, okay, well, it looks like social media is contributing a lot to closing deals. That might not necessarily be the case. Just because that was the original source of the contact doesn't mean that was the only interaction they had. They may have had 15 other interactions, and those interactions might have played a greater role in helping convert those deals. So with multi-touch revenue attribution, you can actually set up different models. A model like a linear model, it says, all right, if it's a $10,000 deal, well, then let's give credit, breaking it down to every different touch point across the way. Or maybe if it's a U-shaped model, we're going to say, we're going to give 40% of the credit to the first interaction a contact had before they came to the site, and 40% of the credit to the interaction they had before a deal closed. Or a W-shaped model where it's, we're going to give credit to the first interaction, we're going to give credit to the interaction that happened right before a deal was created, and credit to the interaction that happened right before a deal closed. So depending on your business model, depending on your specific use case, you can set up different models that distribute the value of a deal across many different interactions. Those interactions can be a specific landing page. You might learn that one specific landing page is always involved when it comes to converting high volume, high value deals. Or maybe it's a specific email campaign or specific web pages. So multi-touch revenue attribution is going to help spread out the value and really help marketers understand what it is that they're doing that's actually paying off. The next new feature that we want to talk about is adaptive testing. This is something that's been rolling out slowly here. I think you might recall back in, it was inbound 2017, where HubSpot announced that they were acquiring Motion.ai, which is an artificial intelligence chat solution, basically. And a lot of people saw that and got excited, thinking, cool, HubSpot's doubling down on making smarter chatbots. But there was more of a benefit to that artificial intelligence than just the chat solution. And this is a great example. Adaptive testing is essentially A/B testing, but using artificial intelligence to optimize that. We all know that A/B testing is important for conversion rate optimization. I've got a landing page and I've got a hypothesis that maybe moving the form up or changing the messaging or adding a video is going to help improve the conversion rate. Well, without adaptive testing, we would have to do a traditional A/B test. Maybe it's run 2 simultaneous landing pages and see which one's converting better, or maybe it's run 1 landing page for 2 weeks and then take it down and replace it with the alternate version and then see which one performed better. With adaptive testing, you can actually compare up to 5 different landing pages or 5 different web pages all at the same time. And over a period of time, as 1 or 2 or 3 start performing better, they start being delivered more. That adaptive testing allows you to surface the optimal landing page in a much faster timeline. So really fast tracking that conversion rate optimization. You can also imagine a world where this same technology can start to be used where let's drill down by persona and say it tends to be that this landing page converts better with this persona. So when a contact is visiting the website and we know that they are this persona, deliver them a different version of landing page. Like the artificial intelligence that's behind this is really powerful and has a lot of great potential for the future. So this is a really cool feature of Marketing Enterprise that's now been rolled out. The next feature of Marketing Enterprise is advanced partitioning. So you might think of partitioning as I add a HubSpot user to the system and I want to limit what they can do as far as record access, contact records, deal records, company records, and so on. Maybe you say they can see every record in the database, but they can only edit contact records that someone in their team owns, and maybe they can only communicate with records that they specifically own. So that's a small example of how you can control certain users' access to records, contact records, deal records, and so on. Well, we've now introduced with Marketing Enterprise the ability to also set the same types of access for different areas of the HubSpot platform. Maybe you want to say people on this specific team can only access these landing pages or these web pages or this blog environment. You might have everybody on a sales team who has the ability to publish to a sales blog, but you don't want them to be able to go in there and publish to the marketing blog. Or maybe you have like an East Coast, West Coast team, and you want to limit what people on the East Coast are seeing related to certain traffic metrics and things on the East Coast side or the West Coast side. Or maybe it's multinational, where you have different regions, you have different countries where you have different teams and you wanted to limit what access they have. That's all possible now with advanced partitioning. We also have the ability to add in different tiers, different subgroups inside of those groups, where you can say, if you are on one of a smaller tiers, then universally you get a different level of access than maybe the manager's tier or whatever that might be. So greater functionality. This is important when you do have a growing enterprise team and you start being confronted with certain people shouldn't have access to certain things. So that's now possible in Marketing Enterprise. Something else that's been increased recently, we know that HubSpot has been streamlining a lot of the back-end code. One of the big things that they changed last year was the way that the header and navigation loaded up, because it loads on every single page when you're working in the back end of HubSpot. By increasing the load time of that, it's now streamlined some of the efficiency of the back-end portal of HubSpot. Well, similarly, they've built in systems that make workflows perform a bit more optimally. And up until recently, if you were a Marketing Enterprise user, you were only allowed to have 500 workflows. That's to avoid having too many things running at the same time. Because they've streamlined some of their processes, we now have the ability to increase that. If you're a Marketing Enterprise user, you can have up to 1,000 workflows. And it's even important to point out, if you needed more, if you're a Marketing Pro user or anybody who's using HubSpot and you realize you have a specific use case where you need more than the allowed volume of workflows, you can simply request that of HubSpot and they'll turn it on. They just don't want that to be the default for every user at your tier. The other capacity things that have been increased are more custom reports. So the little modules that appear on dashboards, you can now build up to 200 custom reports with Enterprise. And you have the ability, people are going to love this, to include more reports on dashboards. So where you might have been confronted with building out the perfect dashboard, but you have one more piece of data, but you just can't fit it in because it's not within the 10 or 12 limit. Well, that's now been increased to 25. So that's something I think people are going to be very excited about. The next feature is both Marketing Enterprise and Marketing Professional. And this is what the entire presentation later today is going to be about. It's the new account-based marketing tools that are being rolled out in HubSpot. This is in beta. Anybody can request access if you're Marketing Pro or Marketing Enterprise. And what happens when you request access is they just turn on these new tools. It's going to be a whole new collection of some contact properties and some company properties, things like buyer role within a contact property. Company score is something new that's being rolled out. There will be ABM, special ABM lists, ABM reports, ABM workflows, I believe an ABM, what's it called? Playbooks. ABM playbooks. So really cool new features, and we'll get to learn all about that in tonight's presentation. So make sure you check that out. Again, you can register for that at moricreative.com/hug, or find the recorded session here after tonight at the LinkedIn group. Something else that's been rolled out is advanced conversational marketing. This can actually be thought of as better chat targeting, where you might have experience with smart content and saying, I want to display this form if a contact is on a certain list, or I want to display this CTA if a contact is or a visitor is on a certain device. Well, that same level of targeting is now available in chat. And that can be very helpful when, say, for example, you have a salesperson, you have Phyllis, and Phyllis has a list of contacts that are all contacts that she owns. Well, you can set it up so that if someone visits the pricing page and they're on the list, Phyllis's contacts, to display Phyllis's chat widget. So a really powerful way to dynamically change what chat widget is being served, similar to how we have in the past with smart content. Something that's been around in Marketing Enterprise for a while is custom events. Custom events just demonstrates how flexible the enterprise portal can be. You know, if you have maybe you're an app developer and your app has different areas where people can spend time. Say you want to market to somebody based on the level of app usage. if people tend to maybe use these features, but never those features, well, let's send a marketing email to them to help teach them about some of the functionality that they've yet to take advantage of. That's called behavioral marketing. That's all available if we could just leverage these custom events that you can set up in HubSpot Enterprise. There's also something coming down the pipeline that's going to be very excited related to this, just how flexible HubSpot Marketing Enterprise is as far as creating new custom ways that it can be leveraged for your specific business. We'll talk about that when we get to the roadmap. Something else that's now been introduced, this has been a high demand request. It's multiple email preference centers. What that means is, you might have a collection of emails that the marketing team is able to send out. And there's a whole different collection of emails that the service team uses when they're sending out emails. Well, if someone receives a marketing email and they decide to opt out or opt in to emails, you'd hate for them to update their email preferences related to marketing emails, and that just removes them from every other division being able to communicate with them. Now, with the ability to include multiple email preference centers, you can let people control specific groups of emails where they're opting out, but maybe it's just of specific, marketing emails or whatever that segment might be. Something that's existed for a little while here, but worth bringing up related to how powerful Marketing Enterprise is with Marketing Enterprise, the ability to turn on single sign-on. SSO is very big for large companies that are leveraging, first of all, for many, many employees, they have multiple pieces of software that people have to log into. This just helps streamline that process. And the added level security of two-factor authentication. So instead of letting someone just log in with the username and password, you also have to generate a code that gets sent to your email, or gets sent to your phone, just to ensure that it's you. So add levels of security and making sure that you're helping your larger teams move as efficiently as possible. And of course, we have to mention the HubSpot ecosystem, the entire network of apps and other SaaS solutions that connect with HubSpot, making HubSpot as powerful as possible. HubSpot came out and said they don't want to just be known as an all-in-one piece of software. They want to be known as an all-on-one platform where whatever different SaaS solution your business is leveraging, you can make sure that it integrates as properly and efficiently with HubSpot as possible. There was a really great app connect partner named PieSync that helped pull additional data over from many different third-party SaaS solutions. Well, HubSpot recently acquired them. I think they saw how valuable the PieSync integrations were. So we're going to see these app connections get even more and more powerful over time here. Now, because we've been talking so much about enterprise level software, something to point out that's important to enterprise level teams when they want to make an investment like this, when they say, all right, we're committing to HubSpot, we're migrating over, they want to make sure that that transition is as smooth as possible. And HubSpot solves for this by giving a dedicated onboarding team that actually uses something called Playbooks. They've got these really great playbooks to help make sure that the entire process of migrating from where you were to the HubSpot platform can be as fast and cover all bases as possible by leveraging these playbooks. So a way that we can make sure that people that do make the investment in HubSpot can feel confident that the migration will be successful. And something else that enterprise level, and for that matter, all HubSpot users like to know, they want to know that the money they're spending with HubSpot, they're investing in a company that has their eye on the future. And this is the product roadmap. Each of the product hubs in HubSpot, the Sales Hub, the Service Hub, the Marketing Hub, and the CRM, they all have a general manager. And that GM makes it a point to every quarter put out the roadmap of the products and functionality that they're working towards, things that are either in development or on the roadmap for the future. This is the frame when it gets presented at every hug that people pull out their phones. So I've actually brought it up here a bit larger. Feel free to take a screenshot. This is just showing that HubSpot Marketing is, the Marketing Hub is working towards some really incredible things that we've got on here that are rolling out with permissions and partitioning. And then if you look to the far right, some things to get really excited about. One that I'm pumped about, in the far right at the top, the dynamic email. I'm pumped about this. Why is it that when I receive an email with a video and I click it, it takes me to a landing page? Why can't I just play the video in line? Why can't I fill out forms? Maybe you're requesting somebody to give a review or give a star rating in email. When you click that, it takes them to a landing page and they have to continue to fill that out. It's just a bad experience, and the future is awesome. So HubSpot is working towards building dynamic emails into our systems here. And then the thing that I was alluding to before with how flexible HubSpot Marketing Enterprise is, they're considering rolling out something called custom objects. So where we have objects like contact records and deal records, well, they're going to be building in custom versions where, depending on your business's use case, you can set up different types of records that are custom to you. So some really great stuff coming down the pipeline. And that's it. As I wrap up here, there is something that we want to do at every live event where we try to collect your feelings. How did you feel about the event? Was it well received? Did you feel like you got a lot out of it? Are there things that we can be doing better? And we figured just because we had to transition this to a virtual event doesn't mean that we shouldn't still ask for that feedback. So I guess I need to change this slide from first your feedback to now your feedback. But if you wouldn't mind, please fill out the form at bit.ly/hug survey. That's going to just let the people who manage the Hug program internally at HubSpot know how we're doing, know if this attempt to go virtual and still try to deliver content in the best way possible was a success or if it was a failure. So your feedback is certainly valuable and very much appreciated. All right, so that ends it for me here as I wrap up. Again, I do want to encourage everybody to make sure that you go to register for tonight's event. It's going to be at 6 o'clock Eastern time, virtual event, a Zoom meeting run by the HubSpot sales professor, Kyle Jepson, and product manager of all ABM tools, Ethan Kopit. It's going to be incredible. I really hope to see everybody there. And then stay tuned here on the LinkedIn group to catch Sam Kelly's presentation on Rollworks. So again, thank you for being as flexible as possible and bearing with us as we go virtual here. But I really hope you guys get a lot out of this. So thanks again for joining in. Bye now.